Hello everyone, welcome back to the launchpad of the DunaMax disaster. Well, so far it's been a disaster. This here is going to be episode 9 of Lorenzo's space program, Planting Flags. The mission is still to go to Juna, and the last several launches which you saw in episode 8, well, they displayed what happens when your whole space program, engineer, ground crew and pilots are all very drunk. So they have all been fired or have been killed, and we have reinforced the rocket with a lot of struts, some nice little boosters here that will separate the boosters, the main boosters, when they are done. And I have installed a guidance unit, a SAS, Advanced Sickness Avoidance System as it's called, and this will hopefully guide the rocket straight up, at least as far as it's attached. We're engaging the system now, throttling up to about 80% because full throttle is too much for this rocket. We have seen this quite a lot, and we're going to hope to establish orbit. Here we go. So we've got liftoff, and everything is going fairly straight up. This is important because once the rocket starts tumbling and veering out of control, the stresses, especially in the thick part of the the thick part of the atmosphere, the stresses on tumbling rockets are very great, and they can rip off boosters and such. So we're going straight up, aided by the automatic guidance unit. You can see here in the lower left the control input is being handled by the system. I'm not doing that, and the rocket is going straight up and behaving stable so far. Overheating at 75% here on those outer I think it's the inner engines that are overheating. Let's see. No, it's actually the outer engines that are right next to the boosters. They are overheating, but they're holding steady at the 75%. The solid boosters running out, gonna ditch them, and now the outer stack has run out as well. Did we see a little explosion there? I hope it was in the outer boosters. They've now been discarded, and the rocket is soldiering on with its 5 central booster stacks. Now these 4 outer tanks are feeding fuel into the center stack, so as soon as these deplete and are decoupled, the center rocket will be left with a full tank of fuel. Now what I added here are these tiny boosters here. You can see them, they're very small. Their only purpose is to push these outer booster stacks away from the center stack when they separate, so that the rocket doesn't, the remaining engine doesn't crash into the discarded boosters and bad things happen. We're at about 15 kilometers now. I'm going to start and try a slight pitch over, so disengaging the guidance system and pitching over ever so slightly to the 90-degree heading. We're going for an equatorial orbit. I'm planning to establish an orbit of around 150 kilometers in altitude, then time warp until we have a nice launch window to reach Juna, and then inject to that transfer trajectory using the nuclear engines here on the upper stage. First things first though, let's get into orbit. Pitching over slightly more. We're currently pulling about 3G, so we can throttle back a little bit. We want to be gentle with this rocket because we have seen it can explode in many ways. Going up at about 600 meters per second, which is quite fast, gaining speed rapidly. We're in the thinner parts of the atmosphere now at about 35 kilometers, so we need to start going sideways to, of course, establish an orbit. Now, the side boosters are almost empty, and we want to be not turning when they run out, so because if we're turning and we jettison this engine will run into the boosters and bad things will happen. So we're going to hold course until these stacks deplete. Now, I'm going to separate them. The little rockets push them away, and we can see the rocket is quite a bit more wobbly now. Oh no, something happened. Oh shit. I've cut throttle now. The rocket has disconnected here in the middle. This is something that has not happened before. This means that on the next launch we are going to need more struts here. For now though, it's not going quite horribly wrong yet. Well, it's about to, because the rocket is still accidentally pushing us in the right direction. This has now ended though, it's not anymore, and now we're just veering wildly out of control. We are in space at 72 kilometers, so that's a first for this mission, but the doomed atmosphere, the curse on this Juna mission has not been lifted yet. We have a rogue booster with plenty of fuel yet. We can't see it anymore because the telemetry links have been sheared off, which is now pushing us directly down. Again, if you look at the map, it's probably going to... It was shaping up to be a nice orbit, but it's shrinking now because the rocket is pushing us back down. There is not a lot we can do about this. There is no way to reattach this connection. These engines wouldn't help us out, and we still need this fuel to get us into orbit. This boosting that's happening now should have been pushing us back into orbit, but it's just going randomly wrong now. So perhaps if we light the nuclear engine we can at least get rid of the booster, so I'm gonna try that now. But these 4 nuclear engines, they don't put out enough thrust to get away from this rogue booster. So what's happening, this one is has more acceleration power than the ship here. So we're gonna ditch some more fuel tanks. Wait, what happened there? What happened there? We're gonna ditch the fuel tanks we have here. There, wait, we need to get a little bit lighter so we can get away from the fuel tank. Trying to maneuver, trying to turn away, but the rogue booster is too strong and our nuclear engines cannot get free of it. So unfortunately, that's another failure for this mission. Hey, the booster has finally run out and we can now get away from it with our nuclear engines, but it's far too little, far too late. Look, we're falling back to the ground again. And even if we were to try, of course we're going to try, even if we're going to try and get back into orbit, we ditched the fuel to try and get lighter, the fuel that we would now have liked to have, but far more than fuel we need thrust, and thrust is something we absolutely do not have. We are now re-entering the atmosphere, and it is probably going to be a fiery re-entry, because we're almost falling straight down. And these engines, they just don't have the control authority to do anything. They are good for interplanetary burns. In the meantime, we can have a sneak peek at the map view. So if we had established orbit here, we would be boosting or prograde to Kerbin's orbit around the Sun, and boosting this orbit out until we get to the red planet here, Duna, or as the Earth equivalent, the solar system equivalent is called, it's Mars. We would have increased the orbit to have a high point, an apoapsis that intersects the red orbit, and the low point, the periapsis, would remain at Kerbin. If you make it equal immediately, we're basically in the same orbit as Duna, and we would not catch up to it. We'd be timing the orbit so that we would be reaching the height of Duna at the same time as Duna itself, and then we would use the planet's gravity, its thin atmosphere, and of course our rockets to land on it. So far none of that's going to happen because we are fast crashing back into Kerbin, just back in time to see the rocket burn up. So from the last episode we're now, if I recall correctly, at 12 casualties. Nothing to be proud of, but fortunately today will mark the end of those casualties, or at the end. Today there won't be any more casualties, at least that's what I wanted to say, because the parachute is still firmly attached. I'm going to deploy it and these guys will have a safe sea landing. Hopefully on the next episode we will be seeing a successful launch and orbit establishment, because this is getting to be ridiculous and a blemish on this otherwise great space program. If you do like these videos, please subscribe. If I hit 50 subscribers, then I will be making a tour of the island where I live on. It's taking the camera, driving around, shooting some nice views. I only need about 2 more. I think I'm at 48, I need 50 for that. And at 100 subscribers, I'm going to make a spearfishing video. Now, the subscribers aren't increasing as fast as I would have liked. In one of my first videos I made a projection where I was at 5 billion by now, which has not happened. This spearfishing video needs to happen before September really. So if I get 100 subscribers before September, then you're gonna go see me spearfishing. If not, then you might still, because it's something I like to do. But anyway, subscribe, like, and try and make your rockets not blow up. That's the lesson for today. Well, not that much of a lesson anyway. So, hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time. Goodbye.